At the end of this week's parashat Shelach, we have the mitzvah of tzitzit. The very last paragraph we say every day in the Shema. We find it in our last aliyah that Hashem tells us to make the tzitzit and take the white strings and add the patil Tekhelet to it. We have the mitzvah of tzitzit. Now in the past, we've spoken a lot about this mitzvah of tzitzit and Tekhelet. This year, B'ezrat Hashem, let's speak more about the Tekhelet, because the more I look into it, the more shiurim I listen to, the more I read into it, the deeper it gets. So B'ezrat Hashem, let's get some deep ideas of how far can the Tekhelet take us in this world, and even how far can it take us out of this world. Okay, so let's go to the famous teaching about how far Tekhelet can take us. We find this in 3 Gemarot, in numerous midrashim. There are some nuances between the different versions of them, which we might get into a little bit. But the most famous location will be in Menachot. This is Daf Menachot Mem Gimel Amud Bet. The whole section there is speaking about Tekhelet in detail. Says the Gemara, Tanya, the teaching of Braita, Haya Rabbi Meir Omer. This is the teaching of Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir used to say, "Ma nishtana Tekhelet mikol minei tzib'onin." What makes Tekhelet so different from from all the other colors? Meaning, why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu pick the color of Tekhelet? Now we're going to get into the color Tekhelet. It's some type of, most commentators say it's some kind of a blue. Maybe it's a light blue, a dark blue. Rashi says it might be a green, maybe an aqua. Okay, so it's not exactly clear exactly what shade, but it's some kind of a blue according to the mainstream opinion. But why did God pick that color? Like, you have all the colors to pick. Why did Hashem pick Tekhelet for the mitzvah of tzitzit? Answers Rabbi Meir. Mipnei she'Tekhelet doma layam. Because the Tekhelet is similar to the color of the sea. We have ourselves the blue sea, the aqua, and actually in the beginning of the sea, it's a little more greenish, and it gets darker as we go through. We get this blue. And the sea, veyam, dome rakia. The ocean is similar to the rakia, to the firmament, to the sky, to the heavens. The rakia, the kisei hakavod. And the rakia, the heavens, is similar to the kisei hakavod. Shneimar, as the pasuk says, now it's a pasuk that's going to compare the kisei hakavod to the heavens and the colors that are up there, and it says, "V'tachat raglav kema'aser livnat sapir." This pasuk is going to when Moshe Rabbeinu goes up to get the luchot after Matan Torah. So the Skenim, and we have Nadav and Avihu, they were all waiting and they were watching him go up, and they looked up and they got this glimpse of something very, very holy up there. We've spoken about this glimpse a lot in the past, and the pasuk says that they saw the God of Israel. The pasuk even says they saw Hashem, and there, tachat raglav, under his feet, kema'aseh livnat hasapir. There was some kind of livnat hasapir, which this itself has different interpretations. What is livnat hasapir? Maybe we'll get into that in a second. Uke'etzem hashamayim latohar, and he looked up there, and it's like the heaven with tohar, with purity, with clearness. This is clear shamayim up there above with this sapphire stone, so to speak. Uktiv kemare even sapir demut kiseh, and the pasuk in Yehezkel tells us that the throne, the kiseh hakavod, is like the appearance of the sapphire stone, the even sapir. Okay, so there's some kind of blueness or sapphire sapir is like a dark bluish. So we have this concept of, we look at the Tekhelet, it's going to remind us of the ocean, the sea, which reminds us of the heavens, which takes us all the way up to the kisei hakavod. Okay, beautiful. And that's through our imagination and our contemplation, we can get all the way to HaKadosh Baruch Hu's throne, which the Mefarshim, Rashi brings down as well, is a euphemism for connecting to HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself. To see the Mekabel, the Pnei HaShechina, to see HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself. There actually is an earlier teaching in that Gemara in Menachot of Rav Shimon Bar Yochai. The Rav Shimon Bar Yochai teaches on the words Item Oto. We're supposed to take the tzitzit or Item and look at them. But actually, if you look at the word Oto, even before Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, before his mystical teaching, we have just Oritim Oto on the simple level. Oto is singular Zachar. So many Mefarshim say it's not referring to all the tzitzit strings. That would be plural. Tzitzit itself would be more of feminine. It says Oritim Oto. So Oto in the masculine is probably referring to the Patil Tekhelet, which would be Lashon Zachar, the string of Tekhelet. So Oritim Oto, what are we supposed to be looking at specifically? At the Tekhelet string. But the Rashbi, Rav Shimon Bar Yochai learns Oto actually can also refer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We're going to see him. We're going to see HaKadosh Baruch Hu, meaning through the tzitzit, through the Tekhelet, we can get all the way up to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And now comes Rabbi Meir, and he's going to show us how are we going to do that. We're going to do that by looking at the color of the ocean, which looks like the color of the sky. And now, first off, this whole teaching, okay, how does that work? Okay, it's imaginative. We have to think and meditate on it, and concentrate on it, and try to imagine going from one stage to the other. I saw people who want to do these relaxation exercises. Will close their eyes and start picturing the calm ocean and the sky. But that's what's happening here. We're going from one color to the next. Now, in previous years, we've given Divrei Torah because the colors aren't all exactly the same. We spoke about a Kli Yakar, we spoke about a Ritva. Well, why are there the different colors? I mean, there's a darker blue. I mean, the ocean itself is a little bit complicated. light. The ocean is darker than the sky. The sky in a normal level is lighter, but the truth is, the closer you get to the ocean, the more lighter it is. Actually, I was driving down. I was on a TO with the students this week. We were up by Naharia Beach. We were driving back down to the dorms, and I was looking at the ocean because it's this week's parasha, and I was looking a little bit closer. We saw the ocean by the sky. The Mediterranean was gorgeous, and in the very earlier parts, it was like a little even more greenish. It was a greenish. It was aqua. It started to make me think of Rashi, who has this opinion that it might be Yarok the Tekhelet, but he had like this greenish and this more aqua kind of color, but then it quickly merged to blue, and then got darker and darker as you looked out into the ocean, and then eventually up above we had the light blue sky. Now, the truth is, depending on what the weather's like outside, how cloudy it is it a rainy day, is it not a rainy day, the color of the ocean will change based on how much sun is out and how covered it is. And moreover, many of the commentators even say that who says that this teaching is referring to the daytime? It might be referring to the twilight sky, the nighttime sky, the more navy colors. And there's many approaches that say that Tekhelet is talking about the darker blues. The sapphire stone is a darker blue. So okay, but let's go. The simple interpretation is Tekhelet is some kind of a blue. But if you look at the ocean itself, is the ocean itself really blue? Okay, we said aqua, blue, dark blue, but is it really blue? Is the sky really blue? If you take the ocean and you put it in a cup, it's not blue at all. It's clear. There's no color at all. So here's the deep idea that I heard. This whole imaginative process that we're doing, where we're trying to go from the blue string all the way up to the Kisei HaKavod, all the way to the Shamayim, to try to think of a Kadosh Baruch Hu. What we're trying to visualize is we're trying to think of the colors until they ultimately become clear. Because that's the way to get to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Hashem is not about colors. Rather, Hashem is much more about the absence of the colors. For us to get to Hashem through this physical world, we need to understand that there's something deeper, more real, more clear, literally more clear, that's behind the physical world. To try to understand HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which normally when we speak about HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we speak about him in philosophically, like in the negative. He's not physical. He's not many. Hashem is infinite. Hashem is more than anything physical. He's more than the yesh that we have over here. So the best way to describe HaKadosh Baruch Hu is through the idea of clear. It's through water. It's through the sky that when we get close enough, we understand close enough, and then we realize that what's really there, there's the absence of color. There's no color over there. That's ultimately how to get to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to try to get to this concept that we can't fully understand Hashem. And actually, we said a similar idea a couple of years ago, quoting Dr. Aviva Zornberg. She was speaking about the Mishkan, and what's the holiest place in the Mishkan. We're supposed to build this grand building, this tabernacle for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But ultimately, what's the holiest spot? The holiest spot in the Mishkan is not the spot of all the beautiful kelim that we build, the Mizbeach and the Menorah and the Shulchan and the Holy Aron. It's not even the Holy Aron of the Kodesh HaKodashim. It's not the Kruvim on top, but rather it's the spot between the Kruvim where they look down on top of the Aron that houses the Luchot and the Torah. There's a spot in the middle that's empty. There's nothingness there. There's Ephes. There's Ayin. That empty space between the Kruvim and the Ark, that's the spot. That's zero. That's where HaKadosh Baruch Hu speaks to us. Because in the infinity of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the creator of the world, the Yesh Ma'ayin, Hashem is going to speak to us from the Ayin, from the Ephes, from the zero. Because in the place of nothing, that's when we can understand that Hashem is everything. So this concept of now take it to the colors, the lack of color, that's the best definition to try to relate to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Okay, let's go back to that pasuk that says the Kisei HaKavod is in the Shamayim, and they learned the pasuk based on the Livnat HaSapir up in the Shamayim. We have this what we translated as the sapphire brick. Now, Livnat HaSapir, sapir is a dark blue. According to most of the people who actually looked into the stones, it's actually called the Lapiz Lazuli stone, which is very similar to today's sapphire, a little bit different, but similar to the sapphire stone. And it's a dark blue. And what does livnat mean? So many learn livnat is from the language of the levenah, a brick. But others learn it's from the language of lavan, of white. So we have this concept of a white and a blue, which is very nice with the tzitzit. The white string is the blue string. But according to others, lavan actually might refer to in its most clearest form to the color clear. The lack of color, that it got so white, it lacked so much color until eventually it became clear. So it could be we're talking about this some kind of livnat sapir, which is some kind of connection of no color with the color blue. Now, if you remember, when Rabbi Akiva goes up to the Pardes, and he warns everybody, when you go up there, you're going to see the stone over there. Be careful when you get to the stone. Don't say water, water, because it's clear. It's just a shine. It's an optical illusion. You think you see water, but really there's nothing there. So somehow this color blue leads us to this idea of lack of color, which is supposed to give us an understanding of HaKadosh Baruch Hu being above everything, being an infinite Hashem that we cannot picture, but we still want to try to reach. And if we do that through the world, through the Briat Olam that Hashem created, then we can maybe fulfill the pasuk V'yadata Hayom V'ashavota Elev Avecha. We should know on this day and bring to our hearts Ki Hashem Hu Elokim B'Shamayim Ma'al V'Ha'aretz Tachat Ein Od, that Hashem is God up in the heavens, all above, down below. There's nothing else but a Kadosh Baruch Hu. Okay, so the clear will be the best way to understand Hashem. Hashem has no demut, he has no goof, there's no body. So the water, the sky, they have no color. So they might be the best way to understand it. Okay. So here's the deep idea that I heard. I was listening to a shiur from a rabbi at Bar Ilan, Rabbi Yaron Moskowitz at Bar Ilan, and he was explaining, okay, so, but why is Tekhelet, why is that? Why is this sapphire stone in the Shamayim? Why is this the color that gets us to clear? Maybe a different color can get us to clear. So he says, scientifically, going back to Newton, we have ourselves a color spectrum, taking us back to old school, elementary, high school, and even elementary school science class. So what do we have over there? We have the color spectrum. In the color spectrum, we have Roy G. Biv. What is Roy G. Biv? We have red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. So he says, Tekhelet, especially if we're going to the bush that's the darker blue, Tekhelet will be on the violet side. So meaning if we have Roy G. Biv, the very end of the color spectrum that we can see goes to the violet. Once you pass violet, we get to the ultraviolet. And now the ultraviolet, now these are light, these are colors that we can't see anymore. You know, they say snakes can maybe see it. The army can create certain goggles that can help you see it. But it's kind of like, you know, when you have like those flames in science class, like you turn on the burners. So it starts off in like these redder colors, and you turn it up, and it gets like the blue flame, like the blue violet, and then all of a sudden you don't see it anymore. And the flame is still there, but it's beyond our vision. So Tekhelet is the color that borders the end of our vision. It's the stage right before it goes clear. So therefore, it's the color that almost has no color. It's almost non-physical, which is how we're trying to imagine connecting to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So Tekhelet reminds us how much we really don't see. Now, as I mentioned, we have this teaching of Rabbi Meir in 3 Gemaras. In the Midrash, in Bamidbar Rabbah, Yud Daled, section Gimel, so over there, it has a very similar statement to Rabbi Meir. It's almost word for word, but here it's in the name of Chizkiah. So Amar Chizkiah, he asked a similar question, but we're going to see it's almost like ours, but slightly different similarities, different comparisons. It says, Amar Chizkiah, Ma nishtanet Tekhelet mishar minei tzivonin shetzivah Elohim liot b'tzitzit. He says, what makes Tekhelet so special? Again, same question, that Hashem chose the Tekhelet to be part of the tzitzit. So he says over here, Bipnei sheTekhelet domeh la'asavim. He says, because Tekhelet reminds you of the grasses. Okay, now we have the greens. This might be where Rashi is coming about and saying that Tekhelet might be a green or some kind of aqua, or, you know, actually, the Gemara in Berachot, when it's speaking about when is the time to say Shema in the morning, when is the sun rising enough that now I can pray the morning tefillah? So the rabbis, they give different examples, and there's one example says when you can tell between the Tekhelet and the Lavan, this blue that we can always say, and the white, or the other opinion says that between the Tekhelet and the green and the Karti. So they're over here, it still sounds like Tekhelet is like a type of blue, but in the darker light, in the darker night, when it's almost morning, dawn time, the darker greens, the darker blues, they're very similar in color. So here we're starting with the Tekhelet reminds us of the asavim, the grasses. The asavim domim layam, and they're close to the ocean. The yam domeh larakia, and the yam is like the firmament, the heavens, like we said. The rakia, says this midrash, domeh lakeshet. So now we're adding some stuff. The rakia is like the rainbow. Vakeshet domeh la'anan, and the rainbow is like the cloud. Va'anan domeh la'kiseh, va'kiseh domeh la'kavod. Then we get to the kiseh, and the kiseh, now here the midrash says openly, and the kiseh is domeh la'kavod. This is the melech ha'kavod. This is a HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So in a very similar manner, this midrash is taking us from the Tekhelet string all the way to Melech HaKavod, to HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself, through the Kiseh HaKavod, but along the way it's going to start with some grass. Now we have a new color in here, but we go again through the ocean to the sky, up until the rainbow and the Anan. So now the tradition over here is really the rainbow and the cloud the rainbow comes from. And actually then the midrash goes on and it says, okay, how do we know that the rainbow and the clouds, how does that like bring us close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu? How How is that domet to Kisei HaKavod and to the Hashem himself? So there he quotes a pasuk in Yechezkel. It's a deep pasuk in Yechezkel, Perak Aleph, pasuk Kafchet, and over there the pasuk is saying, Kemareh akeshet asher yeh ba'anan b'yom hageshem, just like the appearance, the image of the rainbow inside a cloud on a rainy day. We know when it's a rainy day, it's like that funny kind of color out there. All of a sudden, the rainbow comes forth from the cloud. Ken mareh hanoga savivhu mareh demut kavod Adonai. So too, there is this radiance, this image, this demut kevod Hashem, whatever that means. Somehow, Yehezkel is trying to relate to HaKadosh Baruch Hu through the image, but now he's relating it through the rainbow and the way the rainbow comes forth through the clouds. Okay. Now, we don't want to play down Yehezkel's vision, because Yehezkel's vision is one of the closest we get to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But if you realize, Am Yisrael at Mount and Har Sinai, they said that the Shvachot, they saw more than Yehezkel did at Har Sinai. So you have to realize that Yehezkel is beginning to give us a glimpse of the bigger glimpse that we mentioned, that the Skenim are singing the Shemaim, this Livnat Sapir that's up there, all these things. So this Midrash is getting there, but here it's getting it through a rainbow. So I saw a beautiful idea. What do we know about the rainbow? The rainbow also is this concept of you have this white light that's being refracted, and that's bringing out the full color spectrum, the Roy G. Bib, all the reds, all the way to the violets. It's all coming out through the rainbow that comes through that cloud on the rainy day. But interestingly, apparently, according to the laws of physics, the rainbow is only seen through certain angles. I didn't realize this, but I was listening to the shiur, and apparently, if you fly over the rainbow with a plane, you won't see it. It's going to be totally clear because the light hasn't been refracted and the colors haven't come out from that angle. It's only if you look at it from the bottom up, looking up, that's when you can actually see the rainbow. So again, the rainbow would be another image. We talk about the Tekhelet being the last color in that rainbow, right before you can't see anymore. But then we're going to get to the actual rainbow itself, which is coming from a source up in the clouds, where we're getting up to the areas where it's more clear. And again, all of these images are ways to get to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the least physical parts of the world. When we're dealing with colors, we're dealing with the sky, we're dealing with clouds. These are physical, but they're not physical. So we're trying to get to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that Hashem has no body, no goof. To try to understand Hashem on the intellectual kind of way. So these would be the best physical representations in this world that are closest to the non-physical. Okay, so that was the main idea that I wanted to mention with the Tekhelet. Now, as a side point, as I was looking all this stuff up, so I found a side article by an Israeli rabbi named Rabbi Yosef Bagad, and he quoted a non-Jewish Dutch scientific study. It's a cool side idea. So I found the study. I looked it up online. It's an English study by these Dutch scientists. I didn't fully understand it, but they were speaking about graphs of colors and what wavelengths the different colors come up of. And they actually were discussing the Tekhelet color that comes out of the ink that comes out of the Murex trunculus, the snail that some people are using today, that claim to have found the Tekhelet today. So when they ran all these wavelengths, the wavelength peaked of the Tekhelet. It peaked at 613 nanometers. If anybody wants to study and they can understand it better than I can send it over to you. And actually, it has two numbers on there. One is 613, one is 450. One is like the emission spectrum, one is the absorption spectrum. One has the color yellow, one minuses out the color. I didn't fully understand what all of that meant, but one of those peak wavelengths was at the exact number of 613. It was a funny study because it's like you could have like rounded to 615, 620. No. They write clearly 613. So I thought that was a cool idea that the Tekhelet from the snail actually, have a hint to the mitzvot. Okay, another side point as I was looking it up is that that in these Gemarot, in these Midrashim, we're trying to get to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So I saw in a different sefer, this Rabbi Bar Ilan, Rabbi Moskowitz, started quoting Rabbi Natan Ophir. So I found this Rabbi Natan Ophir, and he has a sefer called HaTekhelet Halachat Seva Umeditatzia. It's the Tekhelet, the halacha, the color, and meditation. So he actually says a cool idea that these Midrashim are trying to get us all the way up to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to Kisei HaKavod. They actually form a part of Jewish meditation. If we realize that, the famous story in the Gemara of Rabbi Akiva going up into the Pardes, and he's going up to these deepest levels of trying to understand the HaKadosh Baruch Hu. How is he getting to these levels? What is it talking about? So he says this might be a basis of Jewish meditation, and this Tekhelet might be the way to get up to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. If you know how to focus on it, meditate on it, imagine through it, you can be able to get to levels of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And he adds, he speaks there about the blue and the violet and all the stuff that we spoke about. And then he also adds that if we go to the Gemara in Menachot, which tells over our Rabbi Meir, we mentioned this Rabbi Meir is in different Gemarot. But if we actually don't look at the Menachot one that we spoke about, let's look at the one in Chulin. In the Gemara in Chulin, it adds one more stage to the process, and it adds that when it goes up to the Shemaim, so here again, it's back to Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir is teaching us why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu pick Tekhelet? Because Tekhelet is like the Yam. The Yam is like the Rakia. And then it says that adds over here, Rakia dome le'evin sapir. And here it adds that the rakia is similar to the evin sapir, that sapir stone that we mentioned, Vesapir, Evin sapir, dome le'kisei kavod. And the evin sapir is dome le'kisei kavod. So this one, similar to the other two gemarot, it just adds in the evin sapir, the stone. So this Rabbi Ophir says that the stone, the color, the contemplation, these were all used for Kabbalistic kavanot and meditations. So when you go over to Tzfat and you're seeing the color everywhere, and you're seeing people selling you these blue stones and these blue things, he says there actually might be these meditations that come out in this. And he says, if you read of Aryeh Kaplan's book, Jewish meditation, you look up, he has a book on Jewish meditation, you open up chapter 7 on contemplation, Tekhelet might be one of the best ways to get up there. And he also speaks in that same section about looking at candles and the flames of candles and trying to see the visions around the candles. Now, I don't understand these things, I don't meditate, so I'm not really in these ideas, but I thought it's important just to complete the bigger picture. So he spoke about ultimately seeing around the flame like a blue flame, or like a blue aura that's all around it. From there, you can try to take this and look at people and other human beings, and didn't fully follow how you can get to that, but there is this concept of Tekhelet fire, of an esh of Tekhelet. In the Kabbalistic writings, I've seen in Hasidic writings and Chabad writings, they speak about the Tekhelet fire. So this Rabbi Ophir, as well as this Rabbi Aryeh Kaplan, are saying it could be that this Gemara is giving us the hints of how to look at things to try to relate to HaKadosh Baruch Hu through these meditations. But again, that part is beyond us. I think to go back to the bigger idea that the Tekhelet ultimately is the lack of color, because when we want to get to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we're going to have to be able to slowly ease ourselves away from the physical world we're in to try to reveal that what's clear, what's underneath, the real vision in this world. Shabbat Shalom.